there was this time I was on the verge of really asking seriously for money. And when I was about to ask, my mom said, alam mo, Dennis, sa lahat ng magkakapatid, ikaw yung hindi humingi ng pera. Naunahan tayo ah. Mautak tong nanay. May prophetic gifting tong nanay ko. Because it's so easy to rely on men. And just, Dad, pahingi pera. So easy. But God has been faithful. And looking at it now, I just thank God. Thank God that my parents are not those parents who just give money away. It has helped me trust God for the last 6 years. From our wedding, down to our marriage, to the house that we're moving in. It's God's provision. It's God's promise. He says, I will take care of you. If you serve me, as you build my house, I will build your house. Now, maybe that's for me, where the temptation is to ask from my parents. Maybe for some of you, it's the other way around. It's the parents asking the kids. Alam mo, malaking problema din yan. Anong problema doon? The cycle will never end. Bakit? Dahil yung magulang, hingi ng hingi sa anak, wala nang nasisave yung anak, hindi yayaman yung anak. So ngayon matanda na yung anak, hinino siya hingi? Sa kapitbahay? Wala pakialam yung kapitbahay niyo sa inyo, di ba? Hingi siya sa anak niya. And it continues on and on and on. And here's the problem. That's not the problem. Here's the main problem. The main problem is this. Where either the parent on my situation or the kid becomes Jehovah Jireh. That instead of relying on God, many of us have relied on men. God says, you have a need, a financial need. I am Jehovah Jireh. I am your provider. Don't look to your kid for provision. Don't look to your parents for provision. Trust God. All right? Talking to married people here. All right? Don't look to your parents. Trust God to provide for you. He will. Why? That's His plan. His plan never changes. That's how God works. That's the biblical system. And it should remain the same. God is never changing. His promises are never changing. His purposes are never changing. Verse 25. Psalm 102. It says, of old you laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish. All the works of our hands will perish. Even the heavens will perish, but you will remain. They will wear out like garment. You will change them like a robe, and they will pass away. But you are the same, and your years have no end. The children of your servants shall dwell secure. Their offspring shall be established before you. Question, who laid the foundations of the earth? Who created the one we're stepping on when we go out? Who made the heavens and the earth? It's God. Who made you rich before? Now that you're not rich, it's God. Who made you successful, happy with relationships before? God. And maybe now you're going through the same thing as David, lamenting and crying and complaining before God. Let me tell you something. The God of the past who have made you rich, successful, and happy with relationship, the same God that you have up until now. Sometimes we just divert. Sometimes we just lose focus. Sometimes we just don't trust the reliable God and try to trust on men for provision and for solutions in our life. Number one, first thing, we have to trust His Word. Second is we have to trust His purpose. Why? When God purposed something, it will remain. In 1995, there was this U.S. Battleship. And it was moving. It was nighttime. It was foggy. It was raining. And nakita niya, in front of him, there was another light. And so the U.S. battleship says, move your course 15 degrees to the south. The Canadian on the other side said, I am not moving. You move 15 degrees to the south. The U.S. said, you don't understand. I am a battleship. Move 15 degrees to the south. Canada said, you don't understand. Divert your course now or there will be a collision. The U.S. says,
Move now or something will happen.
Canada says,
Move now. I am the lighthouse.
that is God. That is His purpose. He's a lighthouse. He won't move. You move. You want His purposes to happen in your life, you move to His purposes. If He says divert because you're moving in a sinful way, divert to the righteous way. When He says do this or do that, we follow. Why? We have to trust His purpose. Why? He's a God who never changes. Alam niya na yan. Nakita niya na yan. Napagdaanan ng maraming tao. Sinasabi niya sa'yo,
Move.
trust His purpose. Trust His purpose. Numbers 23:19. And again, it was said, God is not a man that He should lie, nor a son of man that He should change His mind. Does He speak and then not act? Does He promise and not fulfill? Psalms 33:11 says, but the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of His heart through all generation. Just this week, I was talking to a man, late 40s. He said, Pastor Dennis, you know what? From age 17 to 40, I was doing drugs. I've messed up my life. I've done terrible things. I've impregnated how many women? And he says, the reason I'm talking to you is because I just want to say how good God is. And the last thing in our conversation was, what can I do to serve the church? Anything. You want me to do hospital visitation? I'll do it. If you want me to make disciples and do victory groups, I'll do it. You know why? Because this man knew. This man trusts the purpose of God in his life. When he diverted his course and lived a sinful life, God took him back. He says, you know what? Every night I go to God, I pray, I thank God and glorify God. Na binago niya ako. Hindi ko na alam kung saan ako pag wala si God. You've got to trust His purpose for your life. Thirdly, is we can trust His plans. We can trust His plans. Hebrews 6:16-20 says, men swear by someone greater than themselves. Diba when we make a promise, ano sinasabi natin? Promise to God. Right? We swear to someone greater than us. And the oath confirms what is said and puts an end to all argument. When somebody says promise to God, you're saying, God is in this deal. Right? Because God wanted to make the unchanging nature of His purpose very clear to the heirs, that's us. Dahil daw gusto ng Diyos, napakita sa atin that His nature is not changing, He made a promise and confirmed it with an oath. You know, He made a promise to whom? He made a promise to Himself. He says, promise to me. Ay, hindi niya ma-promise to God. Siya rin yun eh. Sabi niya, promise to me, I will not change. I've got plans for you and it will not change. God did this so that by two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled to take hold of the hope offered to us may be greatly encouraged. For those people who choose to trust His plan, those who run to that God and hold on to that God, He says we have this hope, verse 19, as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. Have you seen an anchor? The one that holds the boat? God says, that's me. If you hold on to my plans and purposes, there's hope. Yeah? It means it will happen. You know, if you hear the stories of some of our people here, we've got couples here for the longest time struggling financially to the point that they don't have money anymore, that they need to look for ways to have money. Went on for years. Years. I'm not saying months, I'm saying years. Pag lumalapit sila sa amin, wala akong solusyon. Kung hindi, nakakawa, pray tayo. Yun lang yung kaya ko ma-offer. Sometimes God would stretch us even to years just so we might understand we can trust His plans for us. When God sees, God tests us, He blesses us and He invests in us. Now it's happening in their lives. talked to another businessman this week. He said, you know what? A year ago, God told me to quit my job and start a new business. He left a very high-paying, secure job to start this business. And he says, by faith I did it. This year, God told us that my wife should stop working. She adds so much income to our family. And they decided, let her quit because she wants to homeschool the kids. A very noble thing to do. He said, you know what? When she quit her job, our cash flow has been higher than when both of us were working. Why? Because they know who their God is. If you work according to His plans and purposes, provision will come. You've got to trust Him. Now, will there be days where it's rocky and tested? Sure, there will be days. But let me tell you, just like David when he was crying, verse 12, the shift happens when he says, but you, O God, sits enthroned forever. David knew who to hold on to. David knew who was reliable. David knew who was stable. It was not his company. It was not his business. It was not the relationships. It was God. And he held on to this God. An unstable and unreliable world needs an unchanging God. It means you need God. When change happens in life, you need God. While doing this message, one thing that keeps on God dropping into my mind was this, that God's immutability is my security. God's nature of unchanging nature is my security. I could run to Him. I don't need to lower my standards. I don't need to, try to make things my way. But I could trust Him, rely on Him, and just relax because I know God will come through. God's immutability is our security. In Hebrews 13:8, and let me end with this. It says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Tatak nyo yan. Okay? Sa bato. Jesus is the same yesterday. The God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Joseph is the same yesterday, today, and forever.